Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of Loki. A great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Honestly, that opening is really awesome where we get like all the voices from like different people in the MCU, like talking like lines they've had like in the movies and just like all, and then some at the end point all at once. And then like you get different voices all throughout history, like influential people. And we're getting like this like zoom throughout, like it reminds, there's an episode of Futurama that was kind of about God that this reminded me of, like zooming out into the cosmos of just like the cosmic stuff. Like I don't know how to put it, it's just like it was too much cosmic stuff happening. You're just like it's so mind melding that you're like, what am I even looking at? Universes and everything, it's too much. And then it's like, right, we have Sylvie and Loki at the front door. It's like, all right, who's it gonna be? I won't lie to you, I still wasn't sure till the last minute. I was kind of leaning more towards a Loki variant. I was like, no, they're not actually, because like that's been the final theory from everyone, like for a long time. It's like, is it going to be Kang? Then other people thought a Loki variant. I started leaning more towards a Loki variant in the end, but I'm like, nah, they wouldn't just like, I was like, I know people are throwing it out there, but there's no way they'll actually throw Kang in there. First and foremost, I actually kind of laughed when Miss Minute popped up first, because I like, for one, she just kind of popped out of nowhere, and it's a little jumpy, but also I'm like, oh, of course. Because in the back of my mind, I was thinking too, I was like, not unless we're making Miss Minutes the villain, and then immediately she pops up, and it's like, hey guys, and it's like, almost like, why the hell are you here? It's like, nah, he who awaits. God, I'm blanking on, because they actually didn't even drop his actual name, because it's like, oh, like, they've called me this, they call me a conqueror, but, a jerk, but, I thought it was interesting, He Who Remains, that's it, I was blanking on, I'm such an idiot, sorry, but, He Who Remains, and it's like, well, like, congratulations on both of you making it here, and it's like, okay, so here's the deal, like, granted, we're gonna keep this, sacred timeline running, but guess what, guys? Because you made it here, he can make an exception for you guys. He can, like, put you in what you've always wanted. I mean, come on, Loki, like, what you wanted, like, everything, where everything went wrong for you, your invasion of New York, like, those pesky Avengers, they can make it so that you win. You kill Thanos, take the throne, and be like, ooh, giving you everything you've ever desired. And then with Sylvia, it's like, give you an entire life of happy memories. Like, you don't have to be separate. You can be together too. But for them, it's like, no, it's fiction. Like, we're not going to be, controlled again by that. Like, you're just tempting us with our desires. Like, this is what they've always wanted. And it's like, no, this is bigger than that. We have to stop this manipulation. It's just like, it's like, no, we forge our own fate, destinies now, and stuff like that. And she's like, sure you do. Well, good luck with that. Like, it does, like, the southern accent, that kind of southern belle twang that Tara Strong, like, spins on Miss Minute's voice. It just like that, good luck. Kind of that, like, that southern hospitality, like, oh, bless your heart. It's kind of that, like, that little, like, backhanded, like obviously she meant it sarcastically, but still it's just like with that southern twang, like I said, that southern belle, I guess is the more like apt description, like with that twang to it, like it makes it just even more like, Miss Minute. I was like, also once again, I will take any excuse to have more Tara Strong, dude. Once again, I adore that woman. She's so freaking talented. Once again, she's been the voice of so many characters I've grown up with, video game, animation-wise, and stuff like that. She's been a part of my life since my childhood, so I'm like, dude, it's freaking Tara Strong. I'm sorry, I'm getting too giddy about that. I got giddy about it last episode, I'm getting even giddier, but it's just like, I love her even popping up to Ravonna and saying, where were you at? And it's just like, just taking care of some business, but here's something, and it's like, what am I supposed to it's like, you'll know what to do with it. I forgot what she was saying exactly. It was basically like, he wants you to have this, and you'll find out, like, and she's like, who? And just, she kind of pops off, so we have no idea what that. Once again, we still never got an answer to what the hell she is, because it's like, oh, are you real? Are you recording? I'm both, kind of. I'm like, what does that mean? But, yeah, they're trudging along like, all right, time to decide. And I thought it was interesting that there are 3 statues of the timekeepers, and then there's a fourth statue that's broken. I'm like, is that supposed to be significant in some way? Like, is there supposed to be like, because they are fake, but I'm wondering, like, what's the point of the statues? Like, is that supposed to sell the lie even more? Or is there some shape or form where there were real timekeepers, and then they're like, is the one that destroyed, is that supposed to represent, like, there's actually one that's unaccounted for? It's 3, but there's actually a 4th one. Not unless that goes into the whole he who remains, but legitimately, I was, like I said, leaning more towards an actual Loki, and then it's like, oh, that's Jonathan Major. Holy whoa, it is Kang. Holy crap. And it's just like, because also people were wondering, like, so what are you going to do for that outfit? And it's like, all right, they kept the purple and green, and it's just like, it's not the jumpsuit from the comic, but it's something similar. It's just kind of like a flowing, like, purple cape on top of, like he had, like, green pants or something, and, like, kind of a brownish shirt or something. So it's like, oh, also he's not blue. So I guess they decided, like, oh, we're going to drop that for this. Not unless that comes up in some other shape or form. Like, not unless that's a variant thing. I don't know. But it's like, oh yeah, like, hi. He's like, oh wow, like, 2 Lokis, you guys made it here. And he's just like, you know, they try to attack him, but he's teleporting all over the place. It's like, no, you can't kill me because I literally know what happens. I've seen everything. He even talks about it later. It's like, I've lived like a million different lives, you know? And it's so interesting too, because he's like got this like fun, like charismatic psychopath energy, because he's like, oh no, this is fun. Like, cause he is someone that's so in control that is like, I literally have nothing to worry about, because it's like, you know, look, both, you know, Sylvie and Loki are thinking like, no, this is a lie about like everything. Like, it's just further deceptions, because he's explaining why the secret timeline exists. It's like, oh, it exists because basically it started with a variant of me, my first variant, and that variant found out about the multiverse, like basically there's different realities. And I thought that was so interesting, because isn't that how the 9 realms are represented, like in this continuity, like they're stacked on top of each other? I thought that was interesting. Like, they're saying, like, I mean, because that's the whole thing about, like, parallel realities. It's like, yeah, there's, like, a thin slice of, like, reality in between. What I mean is, like, you know, it's a whole thing of, like, if you go by, like, his Dark Materials, it kind of does that thing of, like, slicing through the dimensions a little bit. Like, a thin little slice, like, the little, like, line that, like, you cut through it and you end up in, you get what I'm trying to say, right? So the fact is that they went more horizontal. I thought was interesting, because like usually it's like they're parallel to each other, like in a sense of like side by side. So like right beside you is a parallel universe. You just can't slide through the frequency and touch it. But just making it so they stacked on top of each other, like that was interesting. It's like I said, I think, isn't that how like Midgard and Asgard and all like the 9 realms and like amongst all the like Thor stuff, like, isn't that how that looks, if I'm remembering correctly? I could be full of crap, but nevertheless, he brings up the fact is that he talked to another version, that variant talked to a different version of him, like they talked and were in communications, and then they all start talking with each other across the different realities, like, oh, hey there, oh, nice shoes, nice hair, oh, love your nose, thanks. Once again, his like charisma with it just, I think, adds more to it. But also, like, he is a little, and you know, I think that adds more to like the mad genius of it. Like, he is that kind of like mad genius of like, I see the big picture, no one else could, I saw it, so it's up to me to fix things. But the fact is that it's like, he comes off like so like almost scatterbrain, where it's like focused yet like he's jittery, like someone that's like talking like, right, I've got to break this all down to you. Like, where do I start? Like, he's got that, like I said, I say jitteriness, but I don't know if that really does it justice in describing it. But it was interesting, like realizing, like, once again, it's the thing of like, right, the multiverse war actually did already happen, but technically it didn't, because he reversed it, so it didn't happen, but it technically already did happen, which it could still lead to another multiversal war, because he's like, right, like some of our version got along, but it's like with any version of anyone else, there's going to be evil versions of me, and so it went into like all of them trying to fight and conquer each other's realities, each one trying to protect their respective reality. And basically, he ended up being the one that changed everything. He's the one that's like, no. I'm create this solid timeline and reverse all these branches so that there's no other versions of me, because I need there to only be one me, because if there's multiple me, then like we have a problem. Like, I'm me as I am. Like, if you put too many of me out there in the multiverse, we're going to have a multiversal war. So that's why so it ends up being that interesting and complicated thing of the ends justify the means. I've done some terrible stuff. Yes, I've pruned and destroyed timelines that didn't fit the narrative of what I wanted, but that's because I need to keep this timeline nice, cleaned, and trimmed, because if I let it branch out too much, there could be other me's and we could have a multiversal war. He's like, you should be thanking me. I've literally kept the cosmos at peace for such a long time. You know, and it is that thing of like, is it nasty? Is it dirty? Is it manipulation? Like, have I done all these terrible things? Yes, but the ends justify to me. You know, even like Sylvie's like, you've hurt people, like kind of saying like, obviously she's coming from the perspective of like, yeah, you took, like, I was taken from my home at a young age, but for him it's like, grow up. You're so focused on your situation. This is bigger than you. This is bigger than even just me. We're talking about everything was this close, teetering on the end of a knife of like coming to an end, and you're up here focused on like, it's like a wham, cry me a river. I'm sorry your life sucked, but this is bigger than your issues. But for Sylvie, it's like, no, like my life, like you have taken everything from everyone else. So it's like, to me, I think that's such a thing of like, it's complicated, because it's like, for one, it's like, who made you the end all be all? Like, no one chose you to be the arbiter of what is supposed to be, you know, like, you've taken away free will from people. And that's a conversation between Ravonna and Mobius, where it's kind of like, you know, it's all about free will. But for her, it's like, no, like, kind of like Mobius, I mean, very much like He Who Remains, she believes in this. It's like, despite the manipulations and stuff like that, like a lot of like, oh, the timekeepers aren't real. She believes that like all of this had to be for a reason. So she wants to keep doing what they're doing. Like, that's why she's like, that's why I had to prune you, because all of this could have not been for nothing. Like, we do good work, and it's like she believes in this mission so much because it's been a part of their identity for as long as they can remember. Like, this is all you. You believe this to be your sole purpose. You've been sipping the Kool-Aid for so long that it's like, for her, it's like, I believe in this. This, to be fair, this mission is all she has. Like, she doesn't remember her original life. I mean, at least not that we're aware of. Like, she knows she's a variant, but she didn't, like, it's like, regardless of all that, variant or not, like, everyone else here being a variant, doesn't matter. We have a goal, we have a mission, we're doing good. But it's like, good for who, you know? And it's like, well, technically everyone, but that's the thing, you know, between Loki and Sylvie, like, neither one wants to really believe him, but Loki does, because for Loki, it's like, I'm a liar by nature. I know a liar when I see a liar. Like, you know, I'm a liar by nature, so I do believe what he's saying, at least certain parts of it, you know, but Sylvie doesn't, because understandably so, like, you're not going to just get over the fact that you've had to run your entire life since you were a little girl. Your home was taken from you. It was pruned, and there's no going back for you. And it's like all this stuff, all these pretty words, you know, to be like, oh, I can give you like, kind of like, you know, Miss Minutes promising like a happy ever after. And it's like, no, that's BS, you know? It's like, I mean, who's to say he would have kept his word? Because like, maybe he could have maneuvered things so that they could be out and about and it not being an issue, but it sends your brain spiraling about like, can everything he said be taken as fact? And it's like, for him, it's like, I'm at this point in time where it's like, right, we crossed a threshold. This is the moment. I have no idea what's going to happen next. And for him, it was almost exhilarating, because it's like, there is this complicated thing of like, it's exhausting knowing the truth of like, right, I know everything. There are no more surprises. It's like, wait, the threshold? Up till 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds ago, I have no idea what's going to happen now. So it's like, you literally have two choices. you two can run the TVA because the TVA is necessary to keep the timeline in place because, you two can continue doing the work and that way you can prevent a multiversal war. Or you can kill me and then you will eventually have to deal with an infinite number of me. Some good, but a lot of them bad. And then we're right back to where we started, what I prevented in the first place. So at the end of the day, he's giving them this choice, Because he's even saying because even if you do kill me in some shape or form, I'll be right back here eventually. I got here, so another variant at some point in time will get here as well. And will they try? And it seems like the whole point will be, we're going to just fly. We're going to be caught almost in this loop in the sense that another version of me is eventually going to do the same thing, put it into the multiversal war, and then just do that. That's if another me wins. Who's to say, what happens when an evil version of you wins? I mean, and that was also the thing, too, and I love that line of, well, you want to paint me as a villain? Don't get it twisted, Sylvie. We're all villains here. You're a murderer. You've got blood on your hands. So, don't act like you're better than me. We're both villains in this situation. I know what all of you've done. I've seen your lives. I know what they are, So, I think that's the interesting and complicated thing, and when both Lokis end up dueling it out, I thought that was fascinating. Well, Loki and Sylvie end up dueling it out because it's Loki's trying to stop her, but it turns into what, He Who Remains kind of brought up of you're can you really trust him? But it's also not just because he's untrustworthy, which yes, he is because there's a Loki, but you've grown up not trusting anyone. And even to the point, he's I believe him and everything. He's just take a moment to stop and think about it. What if we kill him and we make things so much worse? But also at the same time, it is a thing of free will and stuff like that. Free will is a double-edged sword. You have people who would just do good with free will, and then you have people who would do terrible things with free will. I mean, just like the variants that make up He Who Remains, Kang. It's he will, there are some that were just hey, buddy, and then another one was no, I'm gonna conquer your reality, and we got into a whole multiversal war. So, but even Sylvie being I don't see why we don't see eye to eye on this. He's because you can't trust, and I can't be trusted, So that turns into a fight, but he doesn't want it to be that, because she's that's what this has always been. It's been a con. You're ready to stab me in the back. He was no, it's not like that. I don't want a throne. I don't care about a throne. And the sad thing is, there's even a part of me that's I hope we don't find. It'd be heartbreaking if this Loki was conning her the entire time. Please don't let it be a con, because I wanted to believe in him. And at the end of the day, he ends up being trustworthy. But when he's in front of her, I was please don't pop up and stab her in the back, please, because all this talk about I don't stab people in the back anymore, and he didn't, and he hasn't, because I think his interactions with the previous Loki too, hearing about the classic Loki who was I survived Thanos, and then I reflected, I spent years alone on a planet, plus and it's I got lonely, and so that solitude, or now knowing what his future holds for him, because even that was a whole thing from He Who Remains of you both had a long bumpy journey here, getting here, and what was already ahead of you that you haven't even gotten to those points in your life, because you're still Avengers 1 Loki from 2012, so you still haven't even gotten to the point through your progression over the course of Thor 2 and Ragnarok and the beginning of Infinity War, but despite everything, Loki's just kind of I don't want any of that. He's just the thing I want is I want you to be okay. And they kiss, and you're oh, it's a magical moment. I'm please don't let anything happen. And in that moment, she says, but I'm not you. And she pushes him through a telepad. Because for her, it's that's what you want. But for her, it's I think you can interpret that multiple ways. I feel there's one way you can interpret it as what you want isn't what I want. I want revenge. I want to satiate. I've spent you haven't lived the journey I've been. Yes, your situation is your situation. You know what your future is, but my life is my life. and for you to just be okay with the guy who took away everything from not just me, but from everyone, but me in particular. Like, I have a chance to end the man, to kind of bring free reign back to this timeline and everything. Like, is it going to bring back my life? No, but like, what happened to me will never happen to any other version of me, and no other person or any version of them. They're able to live their free will, their life. And so I think there's a part of her that's just like, no, like, my revenge is going to be my revenge. I'm not going, because I think it's very similar. I think you could draw a parallel to this, like, and to me, I personally think this is one of the most powerful moments in Marvel for me. Is like that conversation between Rocket and Thor. Like, I remembered it even more like the second time watching Infinity War, was the line where Thor's like, he had nothing left to lose after Thanos killed all of his people. Like, he thought they were all gone. Like, so he's like, I have nothing left to lose, so what do I have to be afraid of? And Rocket says a line of, I have everything to lose. And I think there's a little bit of that in this moment for Sylvie. She felt like, I have nothing left. Like, all I have is this revenge. Like, yes, there's a connection between us, but it would, like, I can't, like, really fully ever trust you. And that's not on you, Loki. It's a little bit of my nature, but also a little bit of, being a Loki, knowing that first and foremost, but also just the fact is that this is the man who's done everything. He's behind everything I need to do this. Like, because her entire life has been dedicated to this. Because even when she found out the timekeepers were fake, what did she do? She's like, no, like, we're gonna find out who's behind this, because it's when you dedicate your entire life to a mission, like, you've hidden in 1,000 different worlds ending just to keep, you're always on the run, like having to have to stay in a place where worlds come to an end. Like, that's enough to mess you up, where it's like, no, this is all I have, and for Loki, he had so much more of, like, also, but it's like, he's trying to be good, like, he found a purpose where it's like, right, I don't have to stab someone in the back. I don't have to just resort to murder. Like, maybe there's another way that, like, maybe there's more to this. Like, we need to think this through, because we could be doing a lot more damage, this way. And I think for Loki, it's just heartbreaking at that moment. It's like, right, Sylvie chose her revenge over me. Like, and he poured his heart out to her. He gave, and in that moment, it's like, right, because this is the first time Loki's ever done that. He's ever presented his heart to someone like that, and for it not to work out, especially because last episode Sylvie was like, maybe we can go together, but for it to be like, no, at the end it's like, okay, he's like, well, this is what Kang is like, yeah, this is what you're going to do, and she's like, you're not going to beg for your life or anything. He's like, no, I'll see you soon, and she stabs him, and the timelines start branching out. Like I said, Ravonna had bounced earlier. Maybe I brought that up. Maybe I didn't. But I'm curious, like, with that all being said, I'd assume the void is still there and there's no getting rid of that. I think that's always going to be a constant in the timeline and stuff like that, is the void. I wonder, is that something he made? I mean, because obviously he brought up, like, a creature born from, like, the tears in reality and stuff like that. And he made it his dog to, like, devour everything. But I'm like, other than Goliath, like, did he make the void, or was, like, the void always a thing? Like, I think it was, like, in particular, his dumping ground of, like, all the crap. Like, it's like, once again, like, it's like, I can't delete all matter, but I can dump it somewhere. So I think we didn't really get into the nitty gritty of all of that, but it is a thing of, like, right, there's all these branching timelines of, like, okay, so what's next? And so at the end, you have Sylvie, like, falling down crying, because it's like, right, she got her revenge, but she had to cast aside everything else for it. And it's like, was it even worth it in the end? Like, the person, because she's like, now that she pushed Loki away, it's like, I have nothing. Like, he was the only friend, any person that I've had in years, and I pushed that person away because I couldn't let go of my revenge. Whereas Loki let go of his, like, need to backstab and turn on everyone, and maybe that's supposed to be the point of this too, that, like, a Loki will always end up being true to their nature in some shape or form. Like, she kind of, like, even though she chooses not, she's like, doesn't recognize herself as a Loki, she doesn't like being a Loki, that she was one, and she kind of, her final act was as a Loki and betraying him, you know, to an extent, like pushing him away. You know, it's very, there's like, I think that's supposed to be the sad irony of it, because you would expect, you know, but also like her circumstances are a little different, but it's like she still kind of gave into her Lokiisms, but also like, right, her need for revenge, her own selfish desires. Once again, understandable why she feels the way she does. Like, it's just, like I said, it's a no-win situation. You know, it's like, yeah, do you continue enslaving people with this fake TVA nonsense, or do you subject the cosmos to another multiversal war? Like, you know? So that's the interesting element to it all. And when Loki does eventually, like, he finds Mobius and Hunter B-15, and they're like, who are you? And you're like, wait, they don't remember who he is. Like, and then Loki looks and he sees a giant statue of Kang, and it's like, so in that moment, like, everything changed. Like, that's what I'm curious, like, in the time that Sylvie pushed him out, like, time works differently at the TVA, so maybe when Loki came out, technically Sylvie had already killed Kang, and already, like, the multiverse started to branch out again. So maybe that's what that's supposed to be, because, like, he's unaffected. I'd assume Sylvie would be safe too, because of where she's at the end of time, wouldn't be necessarily affected by, well, once again, this is the threshold, like, they'd already crossed that, so I'd assume where she is, she's safe, so she remembers everything. But the sad thing is, you know, this is something I'd worried about when, like, Mobius got, quote unquote, when he got pruned, when he got, like, death or whatever, like, what we initially thought may have been death. But what I was wondering is, like, what if he meets a new Mobius, but it's like, right, that relationship is gone, and we get that now, and it's like, he's the only one, him and Sylvie are the only ones who remember. You'd assume Ravonna, because we have no idea where she went. Like, obviously Miss Minutes left her something, but I guess that's eventually she's going to meet another Kang, and it's like, right, she's probably going to be like, yeah, I have all this information from Miss Minutes, and she's going to fill him in on, like, okay, so this is what that is, and he's going to, like, and that's the Kang that's taken over the TVA now, who's kind of like, oh, there's no pretenses of, like, oh, there's 3 space lizards. No, it's me. They even said it like, oh, like, what does he want us to do about it? Because there's 65 different branches right now. So I was like, right, there's no pretenses. Because I guess that also showcases the difference between the Kang that Kang and this Kang that's taken over this. This Kang that's taken over the TVA might be the Kang that we deal with in Quantumania. Maybe. Like I said, I've thrown all that out there, but maybe it's just a situation that maybe Loki's a little special in the regard of why maybe there's other reasons why his memory wasn't. But, like, you know, once again, like, everyone else's memories, so it doesn't matter. Not less technically, that's a whole thing in itself. Like, I'm like, not less technically Loki ended up in a different branched reality. Like, the moment, like, he got pushed through, like, I was about to say, not unless he, like, because, like, that timeline got rewritten around him if they don't know who he is. So, like, maybe he's meeting variants of because I was like, it's a TVA, so it's like, that's, like, yeah, they're variants themselves, but I was about to say, not less the variants that he knew got wiped out by Kang and replaced by these other variants of those same characters. But it's like, no, I think it's just I think just because time works differently in the TVA, she technically killed Kang already before Loki ended up back in the TVA. I think technically that's how the time's weird like that. That's my thought. And I thought was interesting too. Let's go ahead and talk about the news that I was surprised by that thing. I was like, okay, so there's going to be a post credits, and it's like Loki will return in season 2. I'm like, oh my god, because maybe there's information out there that already confirmed it. To me, it was still unclear because the news was saying like, hey, this was meant to be a one-off. If there is potential, like, right, we could make a season 2 if we're interested. But to me, it seems more like that could be interpreted 2 ways. Like, one, it wasn't till recently they're like, oh, we're going to do a season 2. Or 2, it was always going to be a season 2, but if you know there's going to be a season 2, you know it's going to be a cliffhanger. So not knowing for sure that whether or not there was going to be a season 2. Once again, just based on what I know, I don't think there was any official confirmation of there being multiple seasons for this. There was always talk and rumors about it, but nothing ever official. And the only official word I had heard was like, it's meant to be a one-off, but like we are interested in doing more than one season if possible, you know. So that, but because especially the way the episode was wrapping up, I was like, I mean, if there was no season 2, I was about to say, honestly, this is the most depressing ending because like you got introduced to the villain and the villain wins. Like that's the thing. At least WandaVision doesn't end on a happy note, but it ends off on a resolution. Same thing for like Falcon and Winter Soldier has like a better like resolution. And I mean, that's a whole conversation itself. I know like people didn't like the way it wrapped up, but I mean in the sense that like everything's kind of dealt with. Yes, you got your future plot threads and stuff like that, but the overarching thing is kind of dealt with. Same way in WandaVision to a certain extent. But like the way things are is like, oh, the villain's coming out winning. So I'm like, okay, so like, are we going to, like, where are we going to pick up with this story? Because isn't Loki supposed to be in Love and Thunder? I don't know for sure. But it's like, right, there's also Doctor Strange, because that's going to deal with the multiverse. So it's like, where is Wanda going to pop up in this? Because the last time we saw her, and then it's like what? I mean, it's like, it makes you wonder, like, what's the opening to Doctor Strange into the multiverse of madness going to look like? I mean, hell, like, then you start thinking, like, what's No Way Home, because that potentially has to deal with the multiverse. So, like, what's that going to look like? What's the ending? Like, what's a post-credit scene for that going to be like? Is that going to be set up for Doctor Strange 2? That No Way Home's post? I don't know. But also, like, if this is a season 2 for this, then it's like, so will we get a resolution to this story before we get to Quantumania and stuff like that? Or will we eventually, like where in the phasing is season 2? Is season 2 going to be part of phase 5? No, because Quantumania is considered part of phase 4, right? Yeah, that's, I'm forgetting, like, yeah, that's still all considered phase 4, and that's not coming out till 2023, right? Or is that 2022? Because I know Guardians is coming out in 2023. I don't remember the scheduling now off the top of my head, but I'm like, so are they going to fit in another season of Loki before we get to Quantumania, or is like Quantumania immediately going to pick up after this? Like, once again, because the thing is, Loki, this show and Loki himself, I'm sure it's going to pop up in Doctor Strange. So it's like, there's a lot to consider of, like, because if there's going to be a season 2, like, we're going to get some resolutions, or at least some pull from this into, like, some of that other stuff, but maybe it's not going to be a resolution, and then we'll circle back to it in season 2. Or not, unless it does get resolved in other movies, like, depending on how they handle everything in Quantumania, like, maybe that's where Kang is dealt with. Maybe he's not, like, the full overarching villain, like, for, like, the next, like, maybe he's not necessarily the next Thanos. Seems like we're setting him up to be, but it's also like, right, we're dealing with variants. There's the one that's controlling the TVA, but there's multiple branches of the timeline happening now, and maybe that's his plan of, like, no, whereas the other one tried to shut all that down. It's like, I'm gonna let it run rampant, and I'm gonna be the one that survives, because once I've wiped out every other one, I'm gonna be the most powerful Kang. I want things to be this way. Once again, I don't know. There's also the question of, like, are there going to be, what about, like I said, the other people in the void? Like, does this undo some of those deaths? Because classic Loki's still dead. I mean, God, what does this mean for, like, what does this mean for, are we going to potentially change, like, making what happened to classic Loki, making it a little different, but are we going to make what classic Loki's story was of he fooled Thanos? Like, are we going to make that the mainline canon going forward? Like, are we going to shift things so that Loki that died in Infinity War didn't actually die, and he's going to circle back? Like, is that where we're going to deal with the whole, it potentially him popping up in Doctor Strange or Love and Thunder? Like, will it be him? Will it be Sylvie? Will it be, you know, because you were kind of hoping they'd walk off happily ever after. Once again, that's under the impression that this was going to be a one-off, but then, like I said, I kept looking at the clock like, there is not enough time to resolve all of this, so it makes me super excited for a season 2, but like I said, I don't know what's going to be in the movies and what will be saved for season 2, or will season 2 be the aftermath of what happens and everything gets resolved in the movies, and then season 2 is like an aftermath of all of that. I feel like you'd base an entire season 2 on like not everything being resolved, like, because who's to say like Kang doesn't get resolved until like Loki season 2, but once again, like, when and what point in phase 4 would that happen, or would that be a phase 5 thing? I'd assume it'd still be a phase 4. I don't know. My brain is going off in so many directions. I'm so interested to hear what other people have to say about this, because I know some people weren't too keen on, they wanted it to not be Kang. They wanted to be a character that had some connection to like the Loki, so it being another Loki would have meant more. I mean, to be fair, Miss Minutes was behind all this too. She was always kind of an agent of Kang, so I guess, like, I'm okay with that. I'm totally down for it, because it's like, dude, this is some major setup further than because, you know, I was under the impression, we weren't getting anything Kang related until like Quantumania, but then people, the way things were playing out, some of the, like, even the Alive stuff, like a lot of this stuff over the course of this season made people go like, oh, we're getting Kang. I was like, I just wasn't sure, but like, to me, I was like, oh, we're getting Kang this early. It's like, so they potentially are setting him up as a Thanos level villain, and he's, in my opinion, getting set up a lot sooner. I mean, because we're still early-ish days. I mean, I guess like Thanos got dropped in Avengers 1, and that was part of phase 1. So, but we're only like, what, at this point, 4 projects in. You had Black Widow, WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Loki. So like, we're only 4 projects into phase 4, and we're already dropping that. I guess the same thing applies in phase, well, because phase 1 was what, 5 movies of Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, and then Avengers. Like, so, like, phase 1 was 6 movies. So, like, yeah, we're 4 projects, and it just seemed early to be dropping that, but, you know. But also, like, we're getting a lot of phase 4 this year, too. So, like, we're getting, like, a Shang-Chi. No, because What If is next in August, and then we're getting Shang-Chi. Then we're also getting Eternals and No Way Home. Maybe Hawkeye is supposed to, I think Hawkeye is supposed to drop sometime this year as well, which there's been other setup for that. It's just, there's a lot, dude. I've been rambling on and on, but I'm just curious about other people's theories about this, what this means for the future of the MCU, because there's a lot of people out there. I'm interested, like, I like listening to people who are way more knowledgeable, who are more comic book savvy than I am, so they'll be able to piece a lot of this stuff together, but I'm really excited. Like I said, that season 2 thing got me, because I was like, wow, that's pretty dope. So I'm interested to see where this takes us going forward in the MCU in general, but also like what they would have planned for a season 2. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, low light to the force, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.